Good morning. With me today is Assistant Chief Bob Murner from the Seattle Police Department, and we're here to discuss the mass shooting that happened last week. And today we are charging 3 young men in the mass shooting that happened last Tuesday night that claimed the lives of 2 people and seriously injured 3 others. Charged today are 3 brothers: James Ta'afulicia, age 17, Jerome Ta'afulicia, age 16, and Joseph Ta'afulicia, age 13. Each of these brothers has been charged with murder in the first degree, 2 counts, a felony murder charge based on killings that occurred during the course of a robbery. Each of them have also been charged with 3 counts of assault in the first degree. Each of those charges, all 5 of them, carry a firearm enhancement allegation as well. We allege that these young men who were living in a tent in a homeless encampment near 4th Avenue and I-90 walked up the overgrown hillside adjacent to I-5, an area known as the Jungle, with the purpose of robbing a small-time drug dealer. We allege that James, a 17-year-old, was armed with a .45 caliber pistol loaded with hollow point bullets, and Jerome carried a .22 caliber pistol. They came upon a camp in an area called The Cave, which is a well-known site for drug dealing. Wearing dark clothes and partial face masks, the robbers confronted a group of people who were sitting by a fire in the middle of that campsite. Without warning, one of the gunmen shot 46-year-old Fat and Win, inflicting serious wounds. He then shot another man sitting around the campfire, a man named James Tron, age 33. Mr. Tron was shot twice with .45 caliber bullets and died on his way to Harborview. The gunman then shot a 47-year-old woman named Tracy Bauer, who was trying to come to the aid of the other men who'd been shot. Ms. Bauer was seriously wounded. Another woman, Amy Jo Chenault, age 41, was also shot by the gunman and seriously wounded. At one point during this melee, one of the shooters pointed a gun at another man and asked him if he had a problem. The man said he was just trying to warm his feet by the fire. The gunman hesitated but did not shoot that man. Instead, the shooters took backpacks and jackets from the victims that they had shot and left the campsite. When the police arrived at the scene, they found that a woman at the campsite, Janine Brooks, age 45, was dead inside her tent. She'd been shot twice, once with a .45 caliber round and once with a .22 caliber round. I will refer you to the charging documents that you'll be getting at the end of this press conference for additional details. I do want to say that the Seattle Police Department, together with senior deputy prosecutors from my office, have done a tremendous job of investigating this case. Using cooperating witnesses, they were able to obtain incriminating audio and video recordings from these 3 defendants. And police were able to use this connection to actually purchase the .45 caliber pistol that was used in these killings. Once in police custody, the gun was taken to a ballistics laboratory and has been confirmed to be one of the guns used in these murders. People often ask, where did this gun come from? We know that this particular .45 caliber pistol was stolen in a burglary in Seattle in 1976. The .22 caliber pistol was recovered inside the tent that the defendants lived in pursuant to a search warrant. It's awaiting lab tests for comparisons to the casings found at the scene and the bullets recovered from victims. The serial number on that pistol is not legible at this moment, but we're hoping that the crime lab might be able to restore that. But it appears that these murders and assaults were committed in order to rob the victims of heroin with a street value of about $100 plus several $100s in cash. Because James and Jerome are over 16 years old, and due to the seriousness of the crimes, their cases are being filed directly into adult court pursuant to state law, and they will be held at the Mailing Regional Justice Center in Kent, where we have facilities set up for defendants under 18 who are awaiting trial. The standard range for James and Jerome, if convicted as charged, is between 90 and 113 years. However, under a law passed 2 sessions ago by the Washington State Legislature, they will be eligible for review of their sentences after 20 years. A review will be conducted in 2036 by the Indeterminate Sentencing Review Board, assuming that all of that law remains in place in 20 years. They have this right because they were under the age of 18 at the time of the crime. We also allege that 13-year-old Jerome Taofulusia was an accomplice to this crime, a full participant with his brothers. But we have no evidence at this time that he was carrying a weapon. He was found in possession of some of the Seattle police marked buy money that was used to purchase the .45 caliber weapon. Because of his age, 13 years old, we will seek to have him tried and convicted in juvenile court. And if convicted, we will seek to have him held to the maximum extent of juvenile jurisdiction, his 21st birthday. The defendants were living nearby the jungle at the time of the murder in a homeless encampment. They were wards of the state, but they had run from every placement that DSHS had arranged for them. They were living in the campsite, and they were in regular contact with their mother, whose parental rights had been terminated by the state. This investigation is continuing on all aspects, including others that might have been involved in the robbery and including whether the mother of these young men is herself criminally liable. Despite their youth, these young men appeared to move with ease throughout this environment in and around the jungle. The evidence suggests that the young men knew that money and drugs could be forcibly taken from other people in the jungle. Their actions have changed many lives, including their own, and ended the lives of Ms. Brooks and Mr. Tron. You know, this is not new to law enforcement. The jungle has been a homeless encampment for decades. It's a place, and it remains a place, a violent and lawless place, where drug dealing, sexual assaults, robbery, and murders have occurred over the years. The law of the jungle and the lawlessness of the jungle created the environment for this mass shooting, where the defendants came to believe that they could commit horrific crimes with impunity. You know, hundreds of thousands of people drive by the jungle every day on I-5. And these citizens are unaware of the struggles that take place there among marginalized people who are homeless, mentally ill, drug addicted, and or criminally oriented. But the conditions that first responders have found, in this case, the conditions that we've known about for a long time, would be appalling to most citizens. The jungle is filled with trash, litter, with propane tanks that are dangerous, with open pits of human waste, and with thousands of used hypodermic needles. The public safety dangers are known, but it is also a place that creates a public health danger. Homelessness is a thorny and controversial topic, and we should all be wary of simple solutions to complicated problems. But the jungle is not a solution to homelessness. And I think with what we know about the jungle, it's time for a serious discussion about it. It's inconsistent with our vision for a modern Seattle, a community that's dedicated to quality of life, that's dedicated to equity and social justice. So I agree with Mayor Murray, many members of the City Council, that it's time to envision a Seattle without the jungle. It's time to shut it down, clean it up, and change the environment so that it cannot become a lawless encampment again. Much of the land underneath I-5 is owned by the State Department of Transportation, and so they obviously have to be part of this conversation as well. It won't be quick, it won't be easy, but it needs to be done. And maybe the legacy of this horrible crime can be something positive, like a serious community discussion about shutting down the jungle once and for all. I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Chief Murner for his comments, and then we'll be happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Satterberg. Just a couple of quick comments, and I want to thank District Attorney Dan Satterberg for his partnership, our partnership with the King County Prosecutor's Office, and that's what makes these cases go well. I would also like to thank the men and women of the Seattle Police Department. As you all know, from the night of January 26th right through this past week and continuing on, homicide investigators, crime scene investigators, and others from the Seattle Police working hand in hand with senior prosecutors from King County Prosecutor's Office worked this case round the clock, literally around the clock, through the night, through the weekends. And these cases don't go forward without help from the community as well. We had significant help from members of the community, and I want to thank the people that came forward to assist the Seattle Police Department and the prosecutors in bringing this case to justice. And as Dan stated, this is not an easy subject to touch on, but one of the things that we're sure of is that being homeless is not a crime. But people who break the law will be brought to justice. This arrest is just the first part of this investigation. The charging today is the second part. And I just want to say that, doing these things right and doing them well is the most important part of our law enforcement family. So working closely, Seattle Police, with our other law enforcement partners and the King County Prosecutor's Office, to bring not only individuals to justice, but to do it the right way is the most important part of this. And thank you, and we can take questions now.
Dan, can you talk about investigation into mom's possible criminal liability? We understand the 22 was mom's gun.
That's part of an ongoing investigation, and so if we identify any criminal liability on her part, we would not hesitate to charge her, but at this point it is just simply an ongoing investigation.
Dan, I'm curious, there's a no contact order between the mom and the children at this point. I believe there's a hearing to possibly lift that. What is your office's stance on that?
She is a crucial witness in this matter, and like in any case, we try to keep charged defendants from having contact with crucial witnesses, so we will continue to take that position.
There was a mention that, they did it to avenge a drug debt owed to their mother. What do you know about that?
That is one of many theories that's been espoused by people who've been trying to help us with this investigation. At this point, we don't have solid evidence to adopt that particular theory.
Can I ask a quick question to Assistant Chief Murner? In the documents of probable cause, there was something in there saying that these kids were possibly linked to a homicide, a previous homicide. Is there?
As with all these cases, anything that, as Dan said, activity down in and around the jungle area is criminal activity involved. We're investigating any and all links down there to any investigations that we have ongoing.
So you're saying that at least the murder in October is possibly linked to something inside the jungle, a murder that happened in the jungle?
No, I'm saying that we have other criminal activity down and around the area of the jungle and the I-5 underpass or overpass, and we're investigating any and all links to other crimes down there.
Were these kids under the care of DSHS or the state at all during the time of the shooting or previous to the shooting?
All three of these brothers have been wards of the state, but they have run from foster placement. Each of them had what they call a run warrant out for them because they had not stayed where they were placed.
So they were a runaway at the time of the jungle shooting?
From DSHS custody, yes.
Were they placed in the same foster home, or did they?
I do not have that. Yeah, I don't have that information about where they were. Yes.
How big is the homeless encampment at 4th and 90th, and what can you say about that environment?
Well, the encampment extends for a number of blocks. There's certain parts of it that are more densely populated than others. And right now, Chief Scoggins from the fire department, Chief Wilski, are part of a task force that is doing an assessment of everything down there, including, how big, dangers, public safety, public health hazards as well. And that'd be something that'll be released at a later date.
How long has that encampment been around?
The jungle has been,
Or the other one?
that particular one underneath the freeway, I don't know if we know
I
that.
think they're all pretty much around, in excess of 10 years that it's been going on.
You've talked about the lawlessness of the jungle. What has the city been, or the county been doing about it in the last few years?
I'm not sure that I can talk about that, do you know?
So there's activity that goes on in there, and there's a lot of folks that are there for other obvious reasons, homelessness being one of them. So there's been any number of investigations that have taken place, from narcotics in and around the area, sexual assaults, homicide back in 2009. So there's been other investigations that have taken place down there. But the reason that some of the folks are in there is that it is so secluded and secure. And one of the things that Mr. Satterberg spoke about was that just the fact that folks think they can go in there because of someone's status and commit such heinous crimes is not something that we're going to tolerate.
Can you talk a little bit about the weapon, how they may have procured it, that sort of thing, its history?
All we know is that for 40 years that .45 caliber pistol has been floating around on the streets, stolen in a burglary in 1976. So I don't know that it's been linked through the IBIS system or the NABIN system to other crimes yet, or whether that's been run or not. But it's been, like most of the crime guns in our community, it was stolen in a burglary.
Are the defendants cooperating?
They have been interviewed and charged. Now they'll be represented by counsel, and so we expect that we'll be going to trial, probably on the juvenile case first.
You mentioned shutting down the jungle. I mean, how do you, after 10 years of it being consistently populated and there's really no way to keep people out, really, how do you intend to shut down the jungle?
I, as the prosecuting attorney, am not going to do that. I'm stepping out of my sandbox just a little bit here to say, as a community, it's time for a serious discussion about whether we can tolerate what we know goes on right here in the middle of our fair city. We know that the jungle is a place that is highly unsanitary. It's worse than third world conditions. We know about it, and I've heard the mayor say we need to shut down the jungle, and I completely agree with him.
Can you talk about whether there were efforts to find these boys as runaways when they were reported runaways, and what efforts have there been?
So that's not something that my office does. That's something that the DSHS caseworkers do. So I do not know what efforts that were made, other than they did get a warrant that a court will issue when someone who's placed into foster care leaves.
So were the boys actually living with their mother, or were they living together and their mother was within an encampment somewhere else within the jungle?
I think that their living situation was somewhat fluid from what we understand. There was a tent there that certainly some people were living in. There were also motel rooms in the area where members of the family would go from time to time. So it's not clear exactly who lived where, other than we do believe that the tent that we served the warrant on and found the .22 caliber pistol in was one that the young men had been living in.
What do you take from the description that one of the boys laughed as he was describing the crime? Does that suggest just a juvenile who doesn't understand kind of the gravity of what's happening?
I'm not going to editorialize on it. I think when we get to trial, we will play the audio and video evidence that we have, and I find it compelling evidence, and think a jury will too.
Were there warrants for their arrest? Could you just clarify, aside from the run from the foster home?
I know that the older boys had been confined to JRA, Juvenile Rehabilitation Administration, before, and had served time there. I'm not sure if there were present warrants for other things. There were some misdemeanor run-ins with the law.
Do you know what foster care they were at?
I do not know that.
Do you have any reason to believe that the mother was involved in this at all, aside from whatever responsibility she would have as?
The investigation about her role in this is continuing, so it's too early to say.
What questions are you asking in order to determine if she can be charged, if she was involved, etc.?
The investigation is not just around her, it's around others that we think know something about this, and we have not precluded the possibility that another person was involved in the actual raid on this camp. So there's a lot of work still to be done. Can't answer all those questions right now, but the excellent work of the police and the prosecutors in this case have given us what we think are the main shooters and the younger brother who were responsible for this atrocity.
So just about the jungle, you sound very passionate about the problems that are coming out of this place. Can you give me a sense of the number of problems that come to your desk on a monthly or annual or any type of that?
I would say that the reports that we respond to, whether it's a homicide or a sexual assault or robbery, are frequent from that area, but we also know that the crimes that occur up there are vastly underreported because of the marginalized populations who are victimized there. So what we often find are the things that kind of spill down the hill from the jungle into an area where other citizens can see and report what they see. But it's been going on for many years, and I'm just simply saying, let's take this moment, let's take this tragedy and use it as an opportunity for our community to ask, can we be better than that in Seattle? Can we move past this time where we have a part of our city that's called the jungle and that lives up to its name?
Can you just reiterate that 1976 gun, was that the only gun that was used in this crime? How many guns do you think were present?
We believe 2 guns were used, the .45 caliber, which was stolen in 1976, and a .22 caliber pistol. And we know that victims were shot with each of those guns.
The .22 caliber pistol, that was not one that was stolen.
We don't know that yet because the serial number is obliterated or it's hard to read at this point, and we're hoping that maybe at the crime lab they can do some things that will make it easier to read.
But we do know that the .22 caliber belonged to the mother, right, at this point?
We do not know, we do not definitively have a trace on that, and it's not the kind of weapon that will be easy to trace.
And this is the first time that 1976 gun was ever involved in any kind of crime?
I'm not sure that we can say that either.
That it was linked formally to any kind of crime?
No, I don't think we can say that yet. We have increasingly sophisticated ways of identifying the firearm tool markings that are left on casings and are left on bullets, and so I'm not sure that that's been run through that system yet.
Back to the no contact order with the mother. You're still wanting that to be in place. Do you believe that the 3 brothers had contact with the mother before or after the incident? Is that why the no contact order is in place?
Well, we believe that they, while they may not have lived together in a sort of nuclear family sense that we're used to, that they had frequent contact with each other before and after this event.
So, I mean, kind of like, why now? I mean, we had a homicide in 2009. I know that happened within days of Officer Tim Breton being killed. That was like 7 years ago. So why the impetus now with these killings?
Well, for the first time, there's ongoing right now an inventory that Seattle Fire, Seattle Police, First Responders, Health Department, others are doing about just what is actually up there. And the conditions at the jungle are absolutely appalling, and it is not a solution to homelessness. And as we're discussing the many ways to deal with the homeless situation in Seattle, we need to, I think, agree as a community that the jungle is not it. And it is, in fact, it's the worst possible place for homeless people to be because they are so vulnerable to attacks like this one. And so my hope is that out of everything that's a tragedy, that we can find something positive to do. So I hope that this is a catalyst for further community discussions about what does Seattle look like without the jungle.
Could you describe to us, if you could, just what your detectives are doing, what the process is looking like right now?
So as I said, they, working around the clock. So part of that was, as the prosecutor said, that we did video and audio tapes. So all of those are being reviewed. All of the evidence that is seized there, including the firearms, submitted to our IBAN, NIBUS machinery so that we can test and match ballistic evidence. Continuing interviews to determine the involvement of others, as well as potentially what was the mother's involvement, but others. And there are many, as we know, it's well populated down there, so there are other witnesses, potential witnesses that haven't been talked to yet. So it's ongoing. And then preparing with the prosecutors, the entire case for successful prosecution.
And could you just clarify that they went into the jungle on a drug deal involving one person and all other 4 were bystanders, innocent bystanders, or?
So we know that what we do know is that they were down there to commit a robbery for narcotics and money. So, one individual was basically the primary target, but we know that that's what they were down. Their purpose was to commit an armed robbery.
So is it possible that Janine Zapata, or Janine Brooke, and the other gentleman who died, did they have any involvement with these suspects? Did they know them at all, or were they just at the wrong place at the wrong time?
That it could be either or. It's part of the ongoing investigation.
So, and speaking of that, you guys have a lot to track down. I mean, you're thinking about whether other people were involved, who knew what, and this is a tricky population to deal with, right? How is that going to be challenging to the investigation and to the ultimate prosecution?
It's pretty much the same way as most investigations go. We go where the evidence takes us. So as we talk with witnesses, they would give you information as to other people that may have information, and we go where the evidence takes us. And is it a little bit more difficult dealing with the marginalized population where we're not making appointments and knocking on doors? Yes, but it's these folks are pretty locally centric, so we'll be able to track them down.
The informants. I know you want to protect their identities, but can you tell us, are they also part of this population? Are they homeless as well?
We're not going to discuss them right now.
Are you surprised that you have this help from people, considering this is an area where people say, oh, we usually don't call the police about anything, yet they help you do these interviews and buy the guns?
Again, as with every one of these cases, getting cooperation from the public is key. The heroes in these things are the people that take the stand and raise their hand and give a statement. So I'm not surprised based on the heinousness of the crime.
Okay, thank you very much.